Oh, howdy. How we doing? Nearly caught me off guard there. Luckily, I didn't have the Pornhub window open. Today, we're talking about longevity, though. It is the big buzzword in the fitness industry. How can you live for longer? Now, you've got the extremes, the Brian Johnsons in the world, who are basically like vampires, doing absolutely everything they can to live longer. Hundreds of medicines a day, weird structure to their life. And then you have the flip sides, the average Joes, the junk food junkies, the people who just couldn't give a shit whether they were here tomorrow. All right. And I don't mean the guys who are obviously suffering from depression, maybe like actually don't want to be here tomorrow. I'm talking about those motherfuckers who don't care about themselves so much that they are filling themselves with crap, junk, blah, blah, blah. And we want to kind of meet somewhere in the middle. All right. Because we're talking about how you can increase your longevity today. But before we go into that, I have an exciting announcement to make. I am currently running a 5-day free challenge. And what it entails is essentially you get 5 days to work with me very, very closely, with the end goal of that 5 days for you to have a solid plan, structure, goals in place for 2026 to help you take you from A to B to glory. All right? Direction, purpose, something to excite you, something that you can actually stick to this year. And this is for men aged 28 to 40 who are feeling a little stuck in the gym, have maybe struggled to get back into a routine for a while or even just after the Christmas break, and are sick of being inconsistent and making no progress in the gym and in their fitness. So if you follow the link in the comment section, you'll be able to find more information out on this 5-day challenge and also apply. But hurry, because spots are filling fast. And to keep it super personal, I'm only taking on 10 people on this intake. But longevity, let's get into it. So hopefully one day we're all going to get to this age. And these are the epitome of longevity. You can tell by the numbers on their chests, by the shape that they're in, they are still active in the age of 70 plus. That's where we all want to be. We want to live long, but we want to live healthily. So what is longevity? Essentially, we'll be going into that. What's the live longer diet? Training to live forever? The lifestyle for life? God, I should be a music writer, right? I could give fucking amazing titles to some of these songs. Fuck knows what I'm on about. It's my mum's birthday, so yeah, we're in good moods. There's pizza later. Boom, I love it. Other factors you should think about around longevity. And then, of course, the takeaway points that you can go away with today to start implementing some of this into your daily habits and routines and lifestyle. Okay, so we're going to start on what exactly is longevity. Simply put, longevity is to live a long life, to live longer. Like I said, Brian Johnson is the sort of definition of extreme longevity. He is taking blood from his youngest son and putting it into his own system to live longer. That is one of the extremities of this vampire-looking guy. All right? But for the general population, we don't need to go that extreme, and there's a lot that we can do, which, of course, I'm going to touch on today regarding longevity. What is the average? Well, of course, this varies across countries, races, socio-economical positions. But if you want a kind of figure to go off, nowadays in the modern world, men 73 to 75 years old, women a little longer, 79, 80, 81 years old. Massively improved over the past 100 years by our, sort of forward thinking in medicine, our progression in that field. Surgery, pharmaceuticals, and general knowledge of how the body works. But that doesn't mean that you are protected from everything just because we have so far advanced in that field. How you live your life massively contributes to your longevity. In fact, it literally is what puts time or takes time off the biological clock. And we're going to talk about some of those things that you're currently doing and that you could probably do or probably change to improve your longevity. Environmental factors come into play. If you're living in somewhere like a busy city, lots of pollution, lots of smoke in the air, let's just use Beijing as the famous example, you're probably going to be taking a hit on your longevity. However, if you live in the countryside, loads of trees, loads of space, lots of outdoors, boom, you're probably adding a few years onto your longevity. And of course, socio-economic factors. If you are, somewhat unfortunate, can't afford good food or, regular meals, warmth, clothing, all these things, medicine, then unfortunately, you're probably not watching this because, of course, you probably need a device to watch it. You do need a device to watch it. But these people who are, super unfortunate, of course, they're going to be more prone to disease, to animals in the wild, just their body overall not getting the nutrients that it needs. However, if you're, as lucky as someone like myself, and if you're watching this, probably as lucky as you as well, you can afford housing, you can afford warmth, you can afford regular food, clean water, medicine, etc. And you're probably in a nice place in regards to longevity and that factor. So let's move on to the actual things that affect longevity and the things that you actually have a bit of control over. And we're going to start with the Live Longer diet. Now, it's the same as it is if you wanted to get that ripped, godlike body. The diet is the main culprit or the main contributor to your longevity. You are literally what you eat. If you are someone who, lives off junk food, ultra-processed food, hasn't seen a vegetable since 1993, then it's likely that you're not going to live very long, or at least very healthily. All right? Because you're feeding your body with foreign objects, essentially, things that shouldn't be in there. On the flip side, you live a whole food-based diet, high protein diet, lots of plants, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit, lots of different abundance of nutrients, then you're probably going to be thriving more than the junk food junkie. This is because a big part of it is going to impact the immune system in terms of your ability to fight off illnesses. Because if you're not fueling the body the nutrients it needs to actually perform the way it should be, then one of the things that breaks down first, and you'll notice this, when you get a cold, when you get a flu, when you're just generally stressed, tired, lack of sleep, you're more prone to further illness. Whereas if you're, let's say you're on holiday, you're relaxed, you're in the sun, you're active. I'm speaking to you fit nerds out there, fitness fanatics. How often are you ill? Because hand on heart, myself, rarely. Even when everyone around me is ill, I'm not. It also is going to be a massive indicator of your muscle mass. If you have, a significantly lower muscle mass, you're probably not going to be very healthy because you're probably not getting enough good quality protein in the diet. On the flip side, high muscle mass, obviously to a certain degree, then you're probably a lot healthier than your low muscle mass counterpart. Same with fat mass, junk food junkies. We all know you. You're waddling around, carrying quite a few extra pounds most of the time. And this is probably going to affect your hormone production as well. Of course, frankenfoods as they call them, actually directly impact the hormone production of your hunger. So they're designed to make you hungrier. Whereas by natural design, whole foods, good quality protein, carbohydrates, the lot, plants, vegetables, they are all, like I say, naturally designed to fill you up, to keep you hungry, to manage your sort of hormone production. And that's just with the hunger side of things. We can get into a lot more detail, but quite frankly, I don't have the qualifications or the knowledge to go that deep. So go and talk to someone who does. Or go and listen to someone who does. We're here for the high level stuff. We're here for the things that you need to know, not that you want to know. So talking about whole foods versus ultra processed foods, again, it doesn't mean you have to be the Brian Johnsons of the world. Everything you eat doesn't have to come from the earth. But if you followed a simple rule, 80% versus 20%. 80% of the food and the drink that you consume is based on whole foods. It comes from the earth. It's natural. 20% can be that bullshit. It can be the packet of Cheetos, Doritos. It can be that bar of dairy milk. It can be the couple of pints at the weekend. That is how you find that ultimate balance. However, if you are going to be the Brian Johnson, super restrictive in a sense, but, making sure that it's only good food going in, then of course, you're probably going to add a few extra years onto your life compared to the 80-20 person. But where's the fun in that? Now, the role of plants in our in our food, not the plants here. If you're eating plants like this, then there's probably something wrong with you. Maybe we all tried it at one point, or was that just me? I don't know. But consuming a lot of variety of plants, and what I mean by that, fruits, vegetables, is going to provide the body with the abundance and variety of nutrients that you need to obviously achieve optimum health. The same with your animals, your meat products. If you can consume a variety of poultry, white meat, red meat, fish, you're going to get the abundance of nutrients coming from those sources that, again, are going to put you in the healthiest light. I don't want to go into too much detail because I just simply don't have the time, and I'm sure you don't want to watch me for more than 20 minutes. So we'll move on to the training aspect. So training to live forever. All right, so straight away, I'm going to kind of anecdotally use this as an experience, but pretty much anyone who's fit will tell you that this is true. A stronger body equals a stronger mind. And it's pretty much almost instantaneously noticeable after you've been to the gym. But I've never met anyone who is super strong, super fit, that doesn't have a strong mindset. Doesn't mean they're always happy, because they maybe have some other stresses going on in life. Maybe the training aspect is the distraction from those stresses. But they definitely have a stronger mind than the person who is wallowing in their packets of Doritos, chips, crisps, hasn't moved since they got home from work, or hasn't moved since Christmas. I can guarantee their mind is not as strong. All right, so the two definitely play a part with each other. Of course, training is going to strengthen the heart, a vital organ, the lungs, vital organs, and other organ function, not to mention the brain, which is the most vital organ of them all. Stronger muscles equal better balance, higher protection, and more physical capabilities. Now, it's maybe not as noticeable when you're younger, in your late teens, 20s, 30s, because we're young, we're fit, we bounce off the wall when we fall over. We are physically capable just by our natural sort of genetics and natural growth. But as we get older, this is where the differentiators come in. The old man or lady who falls over and hasn't got any muscle mass on them, hardly, is likely going to break a bone, a hip, a knee. And that could be the start of their demise to death. Quite literally, it's one of the biggest killers for, I want to say over 60, maybe over 65. So start protecting yourself now by increasing your muscle mass. Of course, as you're getting older though, and you might start to notice it now if you've crept over your 30s, you might not be physically capable of some basic things. Carrying heavy shopping, playing with your kids at the park, even lifting your toddler above your head might be difficult. And not to mention, even during your peak, when you are involved in sports, in activities that require a certain level of physical capableness, is that a word? I don't know, but you know what I mean. You might not be able to do what you've envisaged in your mind. And I maybe use the example of, a muscle up, for example. So a muscle up is a difficult movement. On a bar, it takes a long time to learn. Quite frankly, I know that for myself. It took me, 1 to 2 years of, not practicing every single day, but still practicing. That movement is so relevant in terms of being able to pull and push your body in a vertical manner. Now, let's just say, for whatever reason, it might just be me, but you're running from someone, the police, and you need to get over a high wall. You've got to reach, firstly jump and pull yourself up, and then you've got to push yourself over the barrier. Now, let's say a bear's chasing you. For whatever reason, there's a bear loose in the city. The zoo's let loose. It's been broken into, and a big nasty bear is running around. If you are someone who hasn't been staying on top of the fitness, focusing on getting stronger, getting fitter, getting faster, firstly, you're probably not going to outrun the bear. He's going to rip you to shreds because he smells weakness in you. But let's say you did manage to get a head start. You got to that high wall, and that high wall is to safety. Now you can't pull yourself up. Now you can't push yourself over. And like before, the bear grabs you, rips you limb from limb, and that's the end of you. Okay, pretty graphic and pretty unlikely, but trust me, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to physical capabilities, you definitely notice differences from when you are fit and strong compared to when you're not, particularly as you get older. Training actually gives you more purpose, more drive. It challenges you. It allows you to achieve things that you maybe have never dreamed of achieving before. You know, that in modern day now, you can basically compete in a variety of different fitness challenges. Marathons, 10Ks, high rocks, CrossFit, general sports. You know, there's always something, and I believe there's always something for everyone to really sink their teeth into and to get excited by. And by driving towards that challenge, it not only stimulates your body, it stimulates your brain. It makes you become purposeful. It makes you become intentional. It gives you a certain buzz, a certain kick up the ass to do things. It gives you discipline. It gives you commitment. And these can all spill into so many other areas of your life without even noticing. And finally, training to live forever. My sort of non-negotiables when it comes to training for life is resistance and strength training, a minimum 2 to 3 times a week, a certain challenging degree that actually wants your muscles to grow. Some cardiovascular training. This might just be simply, a 5-kilometer run and building up from there. It might be putting yourself in a higher heart rate zone, really testing the lungs. It depends what you're aiming for. But for general health, just bringing your heart rate up to a point where, zone 2, zone 3 on a regular basis, some, ruck running, some jogging, recreational sport is going to do wonders for the lungs and the heart health. And then finally, functional training. This is replicating movements that you do in real life in the gym and getting your body to move in different ways that aren't so regular. For example, a lot of people struggle with overhead movements because in normal life, you're not got a lot of reason to carry a weight over your head. But if you start doing this in the gym, I promise you'll notice things like back pain reduce, shoulder pain reduce, mobility massively increasing. And just again, anecdotally, when I was starting to neglect my mobility and I had a really, struggling issue with my shoulder, even reaching behind me to get the remote was a struggle. I had to fully swizzle round. Now, because I've made it a priority in the past 6 months to really work on my shoulder mobility, that remote's got no chance. Boom, twisty around, got it, flick over the channel. And it is funny because it's such a small thing, but when you start to notice these small things happening, it's a little bit demoralizing. And on the flip side, when you start to notice these small things improving, it's very, very motivating to continue. So, training to live forever, that's my sort of guidance on that. Mainly to do something that you can be consistent with, but it has to have an element of strength training. It has to have an element of cardiovascular. It has to have an element of functional. My thoughts only. That's my advice. So, your lifestyle for life. Now, this is one that is probably going to come with a bit of controversy. Now, I'm in the field of balance is just needed to maximize life. Because if you think about it this way, the Brian Johnson way of living, you go into bed at 7 p.m., I think the latest. You're having your last meal at 11 a.m. in the morning. Those two simple things are going to really, really impact your social life because you're not going to be able to go out for meals with friends and family. And you're not going to be able to see many people after they finish work because you're going to bed by the time they get home. And I believe even just those simple things of not socializing is going to massively impact your happiness, which therefore will impact your longevity. If you become depressed, if you become sad, if you become lonely, it's proven in studies in older people that you will lose years in your life because you start to lose the purpose of living. I don't know what the mechanisms are that then tell the brain to tell the body to, stop working as hard and stop, working in general, but it's been proven in studies. So you have to find a balance. Definitely find a balance. And by the way, what's the point in living to 100 if you hate every second of living, I'd rather fucking die, you know? So you got to think about lifestyle for life, but also lifestyle for quality of life. So what I would say, minimize smoking, alcohol, and drugs. I've done all three. Smoking, I probably, recommend, not recommend it. This doesn't really do anything. Alcohol, fantastic. I love a beer. As I've got older, it's more about the taste rather than the drunkenness. But, I've still had most of my best nights, if not all of them, I've been drinking. And again, I'm going to say drugs are great in the right setting. They are not something to run away from. And I'm not going to promote them as a fitness tool per se. This was going back years in my early 20s. But what I'm trying to say is, if you are someone who is involved in that world, you like to go and watch music events because that's typically where most of the drugs happen, just have a control of it. You don't have to cut it out completely. You just have to have a control of it. Quality sleep, 6 to 8 hours consistently. Interesting study. This is one for the men mainly, or one that will relate to the men mainly. But if you so much as lose 2 hours of sleep in a night, it's like losing an average dose of testosterone that a bodybuilder would take in terms of your production. Just think about that. 2 hours of sleep. That's it. That's all it takes. And it doesn't get made up for the next day. You're literally leaving your growth potential of your muscles on the table if you're not getting enough sleep. So make sure that is consistent. Regular daily movement. You've probably heard me say it a million times. Neat activity. This is just your general daily movement. Going for a shower, eating, fidgeting, generally just moving around. But of course, being on top of that as well and being conscious of the amount you're moving, being conscious of steps. That's how we like to measure it. Steps is a good way because it gives us a tangible goal. But bear in mind that general daily movement anyway is going to help. Socializing, as I mentioned in the previous slide, huge. We are social creatures. We have to be able to sort of socialize with people, and that gives us that satisfaction within our brain. Again, I don't know the mechanism, but socializing is a key factor to staying healthy, staying happy, and increasing longevity. And this sort of relates to brain training, but at the same time, challenge your brain with puzzles, with dilemmas. After we leave school, a lot of us don't. And especially nowadays, we rely on our mobile phones to do all the thinking for us. Try and not allow that. Try and be or keep that brain active. Try and create your own sentences, your own emails, your own texts. Yes, okay, for the really, really, annoying, minute tasks of life, of work, use AI. That's what it's there for. But don't rely on it. Don't become AI reliant. And finally, on that note, think about your device use. How much time are you spending on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer? And of that time, how much are you spending on social media? Because, again, it's been proven time and time again, overuse of social media is going to impact your happiness. It's going to impact your mental health, which, as we've suggested in this video, is going to impact your longevity and quality of life at the same time. So, again, like the drugs, like the alcohol, don't have to delete it out of your life. You just have to get a grip and monitor it. Moderate it is probably the best word to use there. So other factors you should consider. All right, so again, touched on it. Longevity versus quality. Yes, okay, you might be 100 years old, but if you've been a stiff all your life, what the fuck's the point? However, 80 years old, but you've been a party animal, you've enjoyed like pretty much every night out you've ever had, which is a lot. You're living a good life. You've got lots of friends, lots of, close family. Great. I'd rather be that 80-year-old who's lived a healthy, fruitful life of fun than the 100-year-old who, yes, has lived a healthy life, but has had no fun or very little fun whatsoever. Your mindset. So literally how you feel about yourself, how you attack the day, how positive you are about situations will help you increase your longevity, will help you increase your quality of life as well. Environmental factors, I told you a few before, but consider how much are you able to get outside, how much are you amongst nature, are you around any toxins in the air, any pollution, are you taking regular flights, are you around people that are encouraging you to be healthy or unhealthy. All these things really, really do matter. Unfortunately, we can't help it, but it's important to note what is your family health history. just again, so you can highlight the commonalities that have maybe happened within your family and do a little bit extra to protect yourself from those instances. And of course, the pharmaceuticals and medicine. Constantly evolving. As we know, the latest trend at the moment is weight loss drugs, which, in my opinion, I'm all for as long as they are managed correctly. But this is also obviously going to increase our longevity of life. Whether it increases our quality of life is another debate to have. But as we advance in this area, then it's likely that the longevity is also going to increase as well. So getting into the takeaway points, the important things from today. All right, so you have a big degree of control. As I said, what goes into your body, what you do with your body, two phrases there that are, should kind of go to your grave with, is going to impact your quality and quantity of life, longevity. It's also never too late to change. This is most apparent in smoking studies where even someone who's been smoking for 50, 60 years, if they stop smoking, they actually add, compared to what they were going to do, they add a couple years, 3 years onto their life, even if they've absolutely attacked their lungs from the age of 15 to the age of 60. All right, so again, it's never too late to change your habits, to change your routines, to work on being healthier and living a better quality, longer life. It's important that whatever you're doing, you find a structure and a routine that works for you. And this will change throughout life. As a young single man, easy. You're in control of everything. You get a girlfriend, right, you're going to have to dedicate some time to her. You get a promotion at work, you got more responsibility there. You have a child, boom. Now your time's really, really finite, and you have to really find something that does work for you around all the new complications. But find that routine, find that structure, constantly adapt, and you're going to be okay. And there is some conflict between longevity and quality of life. As I mentioned, a few times, and using the Brian Johnson example, if you wanted to live the longest possible, then you could live like Brian Johnson. But that would take a big dent on your quality of life, your happiness, your enjoyment, your ability to do things that you find fun, essentially. So you've got to find that sweet spot for you. And the way that you can start now is sort of doing a bit of a reflection. What are you currently feeling about yourself now? How do you feel in terms of your health, your fitness, how you look? How do you think other people perceive you? What do you love about your life? What do you hate about your life? And then start to think about the easier things that you can change. We're not looking to overhaul everything at once. We're looking to make small changes, small adaptations to what we're currently doing. And we take a step-by-step approach to essentially becoming a better version of ourselves, a healthier version of ourselves, while still including the things that we do love, that we do enjoy. So hopefully that clears everything up around longevity, what it is, how you can control that, and how not to go too extreme in terms of protecting your longevity over quality of life. If you do like these videos, then please take a look at the video that's suggested for you. I like to go over certain hot topics in the fitness world and make them super, super simplified for yourself to understand. Because remember, we don't need to know the science. We just need to know how to apply it. Peace.